Focus is a topic I've been thinking about for a while now. Struggling with ADD, I have had a hard time understanding, conceptualizing, and improving my focus. Because I had ADD, or whatever you want to call it, because I had a short attention span growing up, and not knowing I had a short attention span, when I got older and learned a little bit more about focus, I became very obsessed with it. And I realized that I can improve my focus. I realized that there were ways to have more focus, and when you have more focus, you can just think more intelligently, to put it bluntly, in my opinion. And not just that, but you can be a better person because you're more focused, you're more conscious, you're more aware, you're taking in more information rather than just having things be surface level. And so that makes connections as well more deep. You're able to appreciate people more, you're able to show appreciation a little bit more, you're able to understand new ideas and be more open-minded. As my life has gotten busier, it's been harder to focus. It's been harder for me to make sure that I have that maintenance of basically meditation and exercise. Like, that was my improvement for focus, because when I worked out, my mission was just to only think about working out, nothing else. That was an unsaid agreement that I had with myself, to just block any thoughts out. When you're working out, you need to take out your aggressions or any depression that you have and just only think about reaching your goal. 10 of this, 10 reps of that. How good is your form? How good is your breathing? That's it. There's no thinking about my stressing. There's no thinking about any negative or positive aspects of my life. It's just, you're hitting these goals and you're going to do it the best that you can. Nothing else matters if it has nothing to do with you doing this better. If you're thinking about it, you need to stop right there. Stop, cut it off, and just move on with your exercise. Anyways, so focus. Let's talk about it. We already started. I shared my story. So the first thing is, why is focus important? Why does it matter? And, I have my personal stories and I'll share those as well. But when it pertains to Street Fighter specifically, why is focus important? And you can replace Street Fighter with any game of your choice, to be honest with you. So go ahead and do that if you play something else. One really important thing is I will say, faster reactions. I say that in quotations because it's not so much your reactions that improve, it's that you are more aware of when something's going to happen. So you're not reacting to something faster, you just are recognizing a situation more quickly, I guess. So you're not reacting, it's not like frame 1 starts on frame 7, you were reacting, and now on frame 1, frame 5, you're reacting, but you're still noticing it from frame 1. You're noticing it from this attack 5 attacks ago. So you're just already ready for it to happen. Whereas most people are just like, I need to react to this if it happens, but I'm not going to consciously think about that being an option in this situation. It's different. Good players have chunked situations down to recognize what their options are in almost any given moment. Whereas most of us tend to just whiff buttons and pray that something connects, and then we go from there. That's why I say faster reactions in quotation marks. Another one is basically better decisions. I already kind of explained that in some way by talking about faster reactions. But because you're more focused, you're taking in more information, you're only thinking, your mental energy is only going towards playing Street Fighter. And not only is it going towards Street Fighter, but I'm talking about also just setting aside ego as well. So a lot of times thoughts bleed in that are not productive. Like, and a good example is, this guy is so cheap. That was BS. I got robbed. I'm kicking their butt. More egocentric statements talking about judging a situation rather than just strategically thinking about what's your best option at any given moment and what are they going to do and what should you do in reaction? Where are you going to be? What setup are you going to do? A lot of people are either thinking about the egocentric things or just not thinking about anything and being kind of mindless because they're just pressing buttons and they're still in a somewhat unga bunga state, which is where I kind of fall, honestly, a lot of times. But when you start focusing more and you learn how to focus, you learn like something like meditation. A lot of people kind of scoff at it, but you can learn when to not think. And when you can learn when to not think, you can also choose what to think about. And a lot of people don't allow themselves to choose what to think about. They just let themselves think whatever they're thinking. There's two differences between, one is it's very helpful to know how to think about what you want to think about. Because a lot of people, we talk about tilt. tilting is basically you not being able to think about what you want to think about. You've somehow filtered this situation, and now you're emotionally affected, and it's affecting your playing. It's affecting you winning. It's lowering your chances of winning because you're now tilted. But when you're focused and when you're conscious, you learn how to actually like set aside non-productive thoughts. And I think that's why, another reason why it's important, like, to learn how to focus. Not just why focus is important, but why it's important to actually learn and practice something. It doesn't have to be the stereotypical meditation. You know, it could be exercise. It could be practicing Street Fighter, but also making sure that you have an agenda for what your mind is going to do, and what your hands are going to do, your execution practice. But on that note, the other benefit, in my opinion, is less distractions. You learn when you focus to have less distractions. So you're making better mental decisions for how to think optimally. Because in almost any given situation, like any situation you can think of, it's usually better to be able to choose what you want to think and what you want to feel. And obviously there's situations that, you know, are very extreme and you're supposed to react to being sad, or, you know, life events that happen that are devastating. But I'm talking about just the everyday life, things that happen on a regular basis, things you should expect to happening, and you getting emotionally affected. Like running into a toxic player online sometimes tilts me, but I have learned now to just, if I can, mute them. If I don't have to, you know, just set aside my ego and help them and just treat them like a person that I like. That is, for the ego side of me, that is way harder to do. But I know logically that if I just help this person, that is mute them, and I pay attention to them as if I'm playing the game as smartly as I can, rather than thinking something malicious. I'm thinking League of Legends, honestly, because I play a lot of League of Legends when I'm not playing Street Fighter, and just helping them and making the best call for the situation. Just thinking, what's the best thing to do, and how best should I initiate with this character given the information I have, their skill level, their level of communication, their level of emotional state. What's the best thing to do? And not have it be based around how you feel about that person. That's very hard to do, but when you focus, it's important. That's a distracting thought. That's not very helpful thought when you're just thinking something maliciously because that person is already a jerk. And I realize I can't say the word malicious to save my life. Anyway, yeah, less distractions, very important. A very good benefit, and especially someone who has an attention issue, learning to not be distracted is very, very beneficial. I think it's very helpful. Let's talk about, I want to find the actual definition and go off of that. But focus, the center of interest or activity. That's going to be the main one. I think the rest of these don't pertain to it. State of, or quality of having, producing clear visual definition. Actually, these two kind of go hand in hand. So these two, when it comes to the noun version of focus, now they're talking about something like usually, I guess, tangible perhaps, but also just from your mind, the mind's point of view. When you're playing Street Fighter, for example, like what your center of focus is. A lot of players who play well usually have a center of focus that's something productive based around what they know and what they know about their opponents, and usually pertaining to being open to new information and utilizing the old information that they have, their old experiences, their knowledges of Street Fighter V, the mechanics, the frames and numbers, the characters' move sets, all that information also lopped up there with experience with fighting those characters and playing the game and practicing their execution. And then the state or quality of focusing or producing clear visual definition. I think in my mind, that means, for a thinking point of view, having a clear picture of what you're going to do rather than just hopping in there and pressing buttons and reacting to certain things. Like having, how good is your plan? What are you mentally thinking about doing at any given time? Are you consciously choosing every single situation that you can? Are you aware of all the situations that are, it's your turn, it's not your turn? Are you aware of all the situations where you could potentially do something that's optimal? And that's not easy to do by any means, but that's why the professionals are professionals, because they spend a lot of time putting in to the point to where their mind can recognize these situations and react to them automatically rather than having to consciously think about it. It's all subconscious for them. They don't have to consciously think about it, and that allows them to think at a higher level to where they can analyze information that I probably just can't comprehend just yet because I'm not well versed enough in the subject matter compared to them. Probably higher level commentators also can do that. So yeah, focus. I don't think we need to go into the other definitions. Let me double check. Becoming able to see clearly. Yeah, that's more of the visual version of it. Yeah. pay particular attention to. And that kind of falls, that's basically a TLDR of the other versions, is pay particular attention to what it is that you want to choose, not what you don't want to think about. So instead of thinking about your mind going towards being mad or happy, or, you know, and happy is not a bad thing, but to the point to where it's affecting your gameplay, allowing yourself to get to that emotional state, something in your focus is off. You're focusing on the wrong things. You're focusing on either how fair the game is, or what other people might think of you in this situation, or how much you don't like this person, or how good you might think this person is. You're thinking about those things rather than thinking about something more productive pertaining to that fight. So the first thing is actually wanting to do it. That means different things for different people. So I want to break that down a little bit. Thinking about it so much that it becomes part of your daily lifestyle. Focus is something that can change someone's life, especially if you do, especially people who are either susceptible to just numbing their mind for long periods of time, whether it be through entertainment or something along those lines, and just not wanting to think, or people who are just very short attention spans. I think people like that can really benefit, because it doesn't just affect you in fighting games, but you can take that and apply it to any other part of your life. And when you're more motivated to actually achieve something, when you're forcing yourself to remember to do things and wanting to do things, that makes everything else just that much easier. So sometimes just motivating yourself is the first thing you have to do. Like you don't need to decide to improve your focus until you actually can get to the point to where you can motivate yourself to want to work on it every day. If you're not motivated to work on it every day, then it's not worth even doing, in my opinion. It's not something that can be done. I won't say that, but if you want to be able to just be more aware of the game and think on a higher level, you have to train your brain to do so. And the amount of work that you put in is the amount of reward you're going to get out. You reap what you sow, so to speak. So that's why it's important to be motivated. Okay, so now I can talk about meditation. I think that meditation is just stupid important, in my opinion. Like I don't want to force my own beliefs onto somebody else, but if someone were to ask me how do I focus better, one of my first questions would be is how often do you meditate? And a lot of times you can correlate how well they're able to meditate with how often or how little they do meditate. How well they think versus how often they meditate. I think I said that right. The question is, how do you meditate? You know, what do you do? And I encourage you strongly to do your own research and find what works for you. But I will tell you what works for me from my own experience, because I think people have to do different things. What works for me is, like, specifically what I specifically did is not going to work for other people, or may not work for other people. So I encourage you to do research as well. So that's my first thing. My first suggestion on meditation is to find someone that fits what you like doing. But the way that I tend to do it, one of the ways, or a few of the ways, the simple, close my eyes. Lately, my back's been hurting, so I just kind of get into a comfortable position where I'm sitting upright. Good PC chairs that like have good lumbar support might be a good option if you have a gaming chair. Sometimes I'll sit with like a pillow on the ground and one on my back against a wall. Sometimes I'll just lie down flat as I can, and I will close my eyes, or basically make my eyes basically just like turn off my eyes as much as possible, my eyelids, like make them go as low as they can, and just breathe for a little bit. And then after a couple of deep breaths, like I count them 1 through 10 or something along those lines, whatever makes me feel more aware of my body and the surroundings around me. Then I close my eyes, I start to breathe. Again, I try to pay attention to my breath, pay attention to my surroundings, what I hear, what I feel, how my body feels as much as possible, every like inch of my body that I can feel. And this is something that I've learned from other places, so it's not my personal method. It's just something that I've culminated from other articles, videos, stuff like that. But anywho, yeah, I just try to be as aware of my body. That's important. Like that's a really important facet of it, is to just be aware of your body, not thinking about it per se, especially like because my lower back is sore right now, but you know, being aware of it but not thinking about it. There's a huge difference there. And you just want to be as aware of your body as you can, while still just being aware of what your mind is doing and trying to focus it on your breath and what you feel. Like basically you're trying to focus all your attention on like draining it from your whatever you're thinking about the future, thinking about the past, things you got to do, things you don't care about, things you're stressed about, things you're happy about, getting rid of all of those thoughts and just focusing only on your surroundings, being aware of what you're thinking, being aware of what you're seeing, which should be like black or like, you know, if the light's shining through, you can kind of be aware of that, whatever it is in your eyes. If you can't see, I don't know how many blind people I have, but I would assume that they just would think about the visual senses tangent aside, yeah, I do that, and I just count my breaths. Usually, I'll eventually count, 10 breaths. Do that a couple times. Count to 10. Count to 10. Count backwards. Count my breaths, and then eventually stop paying attention to my breath or stop manually breathing. I have this issue where once I start thinking about my breathing, I have to manually do it, and then what I try to do is I try to forget about I make it an active thing to, obviously keep breathing, but get to the point to where I'm aware of my breathing, but I'm not forcing myself to breathe. Like my automatic breathing functions are back and I'm not thinking about it. It's for some people, they're not going to get that. For other people, they're going to be like, oh, I didn't know that anyone else had that issue. So whichever one you are, that's cool with me. For the ones that are kind of like me, where they do have to manually start breathing once they think about it, then you get to that point and, you do it as best as possible. You don't get frustrated. The whole point of this is just to be aware of it. So it's going to be frustrating for many of you. It's going to be frustrating for a long time before it becomes effective, because you have to work out that muscle that's never been worked out. It's like you never walk and then all of a sudden you're trying to work out your legs at the gym. There's going to be some resistance there and some soreness. That soreness is basically aggravation or frustration, impatience with the lack of progress that you're seeing, or basically the lack of progress that you're seeing. So you're going to have to go through that frustration barrier before you really start to reap the rewards of meditation. That's good. Some people, they get right into it. Me personally, I when I first started meditating, I didn't have that. As I got older, and if I would take a break and get back into it, I would start to notice that. I would hit those walls and get frustrated because I knew already what I thought I should be feeling, in quotation marks, but I'm not feeling in that moment. Because as you progress through life, your focus changes on things, like literally and then also just mentally. And it's important to maintain that practice during the different levels of your life, because things are going to happen. You're going to get distracted. Your regimen might fall off a little bit because a life event happens and now you're not meditating as much. Yeah, you have to maintain that practice. I think meditation for me personally has been very beneficial. Anyways, after you do that though, I start counting backwards from 100. So the way that I finally, like after relaxing my body and being aware of everything, the way that I finally start practicing turning my mind off is counting backwards from 100 and just being aware of only my counting. Letting my breathe, letting my lungs breathe, letting the automatic functions happen if they can. If they're not, then just breathe as lightly as you can, so to speak. Like just do it as manually as you have to, but try to just slowly take away your presence from breathing and just focusing on your counting. What's going to happen is your mind is going to tangent off from the counting and you might lose track. For some people, this is going to happen. For people who have a hyperactive thought process, this is going to happen. For physical people, they might have the urge to move, but you want to learn how to not move your body as much as possible. You'll understand after you do it. So it's not something I can really break down. You just have to learn to just find a really comfortable position and not move a muscle automatically. Like, do not consciously move your body. And if your body is moving, then acknowledge if you're doing it consciously or not. And then if you are doing it consciously, stop. If you're not doing it consciously, maybe consult your physician. I'm not sure. Or see if someone is bugging you. But yeah, so you want to count downwards. You're going to have these thoughts that are going to drift into your head. As you're getting frustrated or whatever you're noticing, you want to just acknowledge them and then go back to your counting. If you can't remember where you left off, then just start over. Try to, in advance, set aside some time to where you're going to have some privacy to be able to do this without being distracted. Set aside a specific amount of time, like 10, 20 minutes, however much time you're willing to dedicate to this. Start off small as long as you can do it consistently. 5 minutes is the lowest I would recommend personally, but just doing any little bit really helps. But yeah, so you count backwards and you try to just do that. I like doing it before I go to bed. I find that helps me to clear my mind because I have a very active mind. I want to think about all the things I want to get done. And that helps me to turn that off so that I can finally rest my brain a little bit. That's something that I recommend you guys try out if you do have that issue of at nighttime your mind is active, you don't like to sleep. Because I don't like to sleep. I just want to think about things that I want to get done, or I want to play a game or something like that to kind of turn off my brain because I can't sleep. Usually games can help me go to sleep because it's therapeutic for me, but in the later years I've been trying to get away from doing stuff like that. Eventually you get to 0, you start over from 30 a couple times, and then when you feel comfortable not counting anymore, you just stop counting and you don't do anything. And I think that is the moment that's the most rewarding after you put in the work. Because what you'll find, in my experience, is you will not think. It'll be brief moments, but if you continually do this, you're going to be able to do it farther and farther apart. So it's going to be like, You stop counting, there's mental stillness. And for some people, it'll get scary. For some people, it'll get exciting. And then all of a sudden, you're thinking. Your thought could be, oh, I'm doing it. Okay, awesome. Like, I'm not thinking. This is cool. Or, oh, this is really weird. I don't like thinking. It's uncomfortable. I can't hear anything. And then you start like panicking about it. Some people think about their grocery list. Some people think about the person they don't like. And then you realize you're not thinking. Or then you realize that you're thinking again, I should say. And then you become still again after you talk yourself down and you stop trying to think. You stop thinking, then there's stillness again. And depending on how much time you have and how excitable your mind is, you might be able to go back and forth during that one time. Otherwise, it might be just once per session, just depending on where your mind goes after you have that mental stillness. If you're able to calm your mind down again and stop thinking, you'll have a brief moment where you're not thinking, and then thoughts will bleed in again. And that pattern will continue until the gaps get wider and wider, where you have mental stillness is what I'll call it. Because thinking sounds different from different people, or is different. They experience thinking differently. You know, you don't think in English, you just think in whoever you are, more than likely. So there's no language barrier there. It's just pure thoughts without having to use verbal tools to think. You're not thinking in English. You just make it logical that way so that you can convey your ideas. Anyways, that's a huge tangent. But yeah, that's what I do to meditate. And all the other stuff like the counting and the breathing, that's all the warm up to actually practicing that version of meditation. There's other ones like Vipassana, which are more breathing and posture related. There's ones like grounding meditations where it helps you feel more connected with the world. There's different kinds of meditations depending on what you want to do. The focusing kind, that's what I mainly try to focus on. I guess pun not intended. I'm not sure there. I cracked myself up. Oh my God, I'm stupid. I'm sorry. That was stupid. I didn't plan that, but I just thought about it, and now I'm like chuckling about it. Yeah. Anyways, I love meditation. There's different kinds of it. Some uncommon ones are practicing Street Fighter and just training your mind to only do these drills. Like, hey, I'm going to do these as max range normals. I'm going to do cross ups. I'm going to do meaty setups. I'm going to do crush counter setups or frame traps, or practice my meaty game. I think I might have already said that one already. A bunch of different things, and just only think about that. That's a form of meditation. Exercising, you go running, you work out. That's, again, I said that working out, weightlifting, karate, that's my meditation, because it forces my body to be aware of all, like it. I can't waste mental effort thinking about, some situation or person, because I need my body to just work at optimal. And I can't work at optimal if I'm thinking about something else. I need that to exert my muscles with good form. And that's why it brings me back to the present. I've always loved physical activities like sports and boxing, contact sports, karate. I always loved that stuff because it turned off my mind. It turned off my mind. I shouldn't say turned it off. It redirected my thoughts into only my form. And it's very rewarding and very therapeutic to be able to just like flush your thoughts and only think about something productive, so that your body can do like this cool martial art, whether that be literal martial arts like boxing or karate, or other kinds of movement arts like sports and stuff like that, gymnastics. Those are all good forms of meditation, in my opinion. I love doing sports. I love running is a good challenge for me lately, because it's just, I think I dislike it so much that it becomes a mental battle, and that mental battle is very strengthening for the mind. And I love that aspect of it, of forcing my body, as long as I'm doing it with good form and not beating my body up literally and tearing up my knees or anything like that. It's important to have good form. So be aware that I am thinking about that, not just like mashing my legs into the ground. Execution of like physical execution. That's really important. I think that helps with meditation. I think that helps with focus, awareness. So yeah, to recap, the reason it's important to meditate, or not meditate, I'll say meditate, but the reason it's important to be more focused and aware is because of the ability to react, quote unquote, faster, to be able to recognize situations faster, to be able to make better decisions faster, because you're more aware of things, you're taking in more useful information. You're choosing what to focus on. You're choosing what to think about. And so now you can use that, and you're less distracted as well. That's super important. Your ability to focus is what you choose to think about, essentially. The TLDR is what you're picking to think about and what information you are receiving. That's kind of the awareness. So focus would be what you're choosing to think about. Awareness would be what information you're choosing to receive. Okay. I think that's a really good way to help you remember that there's a differentiation between those two things, because you can choose to focus on meaty, but if you're not noticing that they're EX wake upping every time, if you're not aware that they're waking up, then that's you not being aware, not you not being focused. Now, if you're not focused on thinking about if they will do a EX wake up, then you're not going to be aware that they're doing an EX wake up. You're just going to get hit. You're going to keep trying to do your meaty setup and not respecting their option. If you're trying to, as a Zangief player, every single time on knockdown, on a meaty knockdown, you do your like command grab and never mix it up, they're going to neutral jump and blow you up every single time. So that's why it's important to, one, be focused on thinking about certain aspects of the game, but two, be aware of what information is coming back when you're thinking about and doing those things. Two big different things. How you do those things, how you get better at those things outside of fighting games, I think is motivation and meditation. Easy to remember. Motivation, you have to want to do it. You have to make it to be something that, like, can you think about this every day and improve on it and actually do something about it rather than obsessing about it and not doing anything? Can you motivate yourself to execute regularly to the point to where now it becomes muscle memory? And then meditation is the ability to turn off your thoughts. You can't, it's going to be a lot harder to choose what to think if you don't know how to not think, if you don't know how to choose what to think. If you're at the will of your emotions, you're not going to be an optimal thinker because your brain, you're a slave to your brain. You're not telling your brain what to do. So in my opinion, I think meditation is one of the most useful things that you can do in order to better make, in order to make better decisions, to have better reactions, in order to be less distracted. That's the quickest way to do it, in my opinion. There's other ways to do it, but find what your meditation is and do that. That's what I think works. And that's what I think you guys should try out. But as I said at the very beginning of this, please do your research. Find what kind of meditation or how to focus. Do the research. That's as part of being motivated. Find what works for you or what you like to do, what you think might help you be able to focus and be more aware. So that's my thoughts on this. I want to know from you guys. In the stream, I'm going to have to go soon. But for the people who are listening to the podcast, I want to know what you think about this. I want to know what you do to get focused. I want to know what your level of focus is, and I want to know how you get better at focusing if you're doing that. So 2 different questions. How is your focus currently? Like how is your level of focus? In your opinion, objectively, if you had to really point it out, how is your level of focus right now in your fighting game of choice? And if you're someone who does get better, like who is consciously choosing to improve their focus, what are you doing to improve your focus? And why did you start doing that? Let me know in the comments. But that said, thank you guys so much for joining me. People in the stream, thank you guys so much for doing this. Let me know if this is something you enjoy, because I have so many topics in my brain that I need to actually just talk about. And I think that doing it live and not really having a script and just doing it online might be the best way to do it, because I like having a conversation afterwards. So I think that's the best opportunity to have a conversation. But also people in the podcast, what do you think about doing this live? Is this something you'd be interested in checking out? Because I just want to have conversations with people. And I want to talk about these topics. I want to teach things that I've learned when it comes to like personal development or improving in a skill of your choice. Like mastery is a topic I'm so obsessed with, and I have so much knowledge on it. It's not always relevant to me, but I want to share that knowledge to other people who want to do what they want to do. I'm in a great point in my life right now that I'm very proud to be at, and I want to share the wealth. I don't want to just keep being more and more successful and not sharing that with people. I want to like share as much information as I can with as many people as I can so that they can get better as well. So it's just only my perspective. You have to learn and develop your own perspective, but I think 2 heads are better than 1, 4 heads are better than 2, and etc. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to go see how my son's doing and relieve my fiance, who's been a great person, and I greatly appreciate. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I appreciate you. Every Wednesday, I try to put out a podcast as much as I can. It's been hectic with the weather and having the family, but I want to keep doing it for the sake of accountability. So I will try my best to do one every Friday, and then I have a bunch of new videos that I'm planning on putting on YouTube, match analysis on YouTube for you guys, so that we can level up inside and outside the virtual arena. Until then, I'm going to see you guys next time.